The following is a Sunny 99.5 WSTX station editorial.
This is Holland Redfield. Thank God for the U.S. Constitution, which affords us freedom of speech and the right for peaceful protest. Once in a while, one is left with no choice but to step up to the plate and defend their rights and challenge the well-oiled Virgin Island bureaucracy to meet its responsibilities. Just within the last month, we have seen 4 distinctive, effective protests by Virgin Islanders who have had it right up to their eyeballs with government departments and entities who have been wrong and strong. It is almost as if government begs to have these protests, which ultimately embarrass their departments into implementing proper procedures which they should have done without being carried kicking and screaming. First came the teachers, who were forced into the streets to sensitize the Office of Collective Bargaining to get down to the business of completing negotiations for their new contract, in which they are fully entitled to. Was that asking too much? The second was a group of courageous students who pled with the Department of Education to simply give them an English teacher so they could graduate from high school. Was that asking too much? Oh, yes. Then came a group of qualified and certified unemployed Virgin Islands tradesmen who rightfully protested against a WAPA subcontractor who gave the job to outsiders. Was that really asking too much? The last protest was by 1,000 irate Virgin Islanders protesting the illegal firing of the director of the Juan Luis Hospital. Was that asking too much? All of these protests have one thing in common: a government or governmental entities which have become insensitive, callous, and overbearing and disrespectful. Through these belligerent actions, the government has created a climate of helplessness and hopelessness, where individuals were left with no choice but to go to these extremes and subject themselves to, in many cases, indifference and condemnation from a government which was determined to excuse itself from its own inadequacies or shortcomings. Let's look at how our government retaliates to cover its backside. In the case of the teachers' protests for a new contract, the Department of Education's first reaction was to run to the courts. We do not side with the teachers regarding their violation of their no-strike provision, but are in support of the teachers and sympathize with their cause because our government routinely dangles the no-strike provision over its labor union heads, because it leaves them powerless and affords the government better leverage. Not fair. However, we are pleased that the governor of the Virgin Islands recognizes these shortcomings and has injected himself into the middle of this contentious negotiation between the teachers union and the Department of Education. Let's look to our youngsters simply protesting for an English teacher. They were threatened with suspension from school. Not fair. Let's look at our certified VI tradesmen outside of WAPA. What was WAPA's reaction? They locked them out of the gate and slammed the door. Not fair. Let's look at the protest at the hospital. Where were the communications between the hospital board and their chief executive officer that led to this unfortunate situation? Not fair. We were encouraged that the governor stepped into the middle of this fiasco and got both sides back on track. Hey, aren't those who are in the position of authority supposed to use that authority in a measured way and keep in mind that when there is a real or perceived injustice, that they owe it to the aggrieved party to clearly communicate? Be prepared to do the right thing, admit when they have been wrong, and immediately remedy that matter. Not to cover their backsides or let it fester to the point where Virgin Islanders are forced into the streets to stand up for their rights. Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Sunny 99.5 and WSTX welcome your opinions. Please email your comments to our editorial department. Our email address is editorial@viradio.com. Sunny 99.5 and WSTX reserve the right to air your views. Please include your name and other contact information.